Hey there YouTube. Today we're going to cover a tutorial on how to create polygon portraits. I've done a couple of them. This is my brother, and also I have done myself. You can check these out over on my website, paul-starkey.com. But today I'm actually going to show you how to create one of these. Now you're not limited to doing them on a portrait of somebody, you can do landscape objects. You could do anything really, it doesn't really matter. It's a nice looking effect on vehicles in all honesty, so we're just going to jump straight into it and get going, and I'll show you how to do this. So this is the image I'm going to use today. This is a colleague of mine, Gareth Slightholme, and today we are going to polygon up his portrait, and when we are done we should have something that looks like this. Maybe not as washed out. I made one mistake right at the end when I was colouring up the image, and my next attempt, obviously what we're going to go through now, and I'll know the error I've made, and I will mention to just make sure that when you do this you don't fall into the same trap. So essentially you need to drag in your photograph, whatever it is you're working with, and with that photo layer selected, on your layers palette you choose this little drop down menu here and set it to template. And you can see it slightly washes out, and that was where I picked these colours out from the washed out image. What I should have done is turned this back off template, or in the actual template layer, if you double click it, I should have put the dim images off, pressed OK, so it was still at full colour. So I'm going to leave this one at full colour, still leave it as a template, and I'm just going to jump straight in. So zoom in a little bit. Now one thing to just point out with doing this is that we have large areas of the image, like the cheek area and the head, shoulders, chest, that we can utilise larger polygons with to reduce time down, and then just work into smaller detail in the areas with the nose crease, the mouth and the eyes and the ear. So just bear that in mind. I prefer to start somewhere large, utilising the pen tool. On a new layer, all you have to do is triple click. I'm just going to move over to the side, so 1 click, 2 click, 3 click, and then you click back on your first point and it closes the shape. Now when I'm working with these shapes I prefer an outline on, something bright and bold that we can see quite easily. Jumps out a little bit more, easy to work with. Also sometimes you may prefer to work without a fill, but it makes it difficult to select these shapes if you make a mistake and deselect them, so I like to have a fill turned on myself. Just white's fine. You could drop the opacity a bit down, but we don't really need to, because we need to know what areas were covered, and if we drop the opacity too low we might miss elements. So let's start, and just be careful when using the pen tool to not click and drag, because if you click once and then clicked and dragged slightly you get these little handles, and then when you click again you see it creates curves, and we don't want curves, we want perfectly straight lines. So like so, and sometimes if you're clicking too quick you create weird shapes, so just be careful of that. Let's go back on the white fill with pink outline, and we are just going to go straight in and get started. So consider the contours of the face. I'm going to start right up here where this cheekbone is running down the side of the eye, and I'm just going to utilise that straight away down to the beard as my first polygon. I've done that on the background layer, my mistake. And there we go. Now additionally, one of the other elements you've got is when you create a second polygon, there may be some issues here, because if you go back over your original shape you see your mouse pointer, the pen tool tends to a minus, and if you click it removes that point. The quickest way for doing this, rather than shortcut keys and everything, is just to start the second point of your triangle that's going to join onto it. So you'd click over here to start with, and then run over to your anchor point on the original triangle, and then pull down and go back in, and then same again. So it's nice and simple, just creating big triangles, getting slightly smaller coming into the face because we're going to get into some detail down this part. So I'll start there, and for this one I'm actually going to run down to the crease of his cheek as it comes towards the lip. And yes, we've got like some teeth now on the side of his face, but that's where we come back, and now because this is the shape selected, we can utilise the points on the first shape. I think I'll just actually go upwards, like so, and then we'll do a nice short, sharp one to finish off with. Come back here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure you hit that 4th point as you're going along, otherwise you'll end up with only half filled shapes. And at some point later on, when you go through this process, you'll make mistakes where you haven't quite clicked on the anchor. I shall do one now on purpose, like so, and close back in, and that's where you'd use your direct selection tool, which is this little white mouse pointer here. We can zoom in a little bit with the control key and the mouse wheel, the alt key and the mouse wheel, and you just select that point. It should snap automatically, and there you go, it snaps back onto the anchor point where it should be sat. So back into the pencil. From here you see I've lined this up so there's quite a nice shape triangle sat right into that area. Keep going onto the background layer. Let's lock them down. So again, down here, across. So that's going to start building down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this down into components of complete skin, stubble, and then beard. So you can see me working along these lines. I could probably start adjusting a couple of these points and just pulling them down a little bit just to get a nicer sort of line around the skin up to the stubble, and then moving upwards from here, or inwards, upwards or inwards. We'll go inwards. 2, and we want one probably here, like so, and then we can close off this point. So that's the skin area running right up to the moustache and the stubble and up into the nose. I'm actually going to start creating this curve here in the nose. Wherever there's any definable curves within your image or really noticeable lines, I recommend you utilise those as a guideline for where your polys are going to be drawn. So essentially for the shading on this, there is a casted shadow running over the underside of the nose. There's also an inset into the nose here, so I'm going to try and follow those along. Now I'll set up my line on this one here, this point, oops, so that it lines up on the wrong tool, so it lines up along that edge of the nose, and that means I can start feeding the shape over there with the shadow, which we shall do now. So drop straight into there. You see we're getting smaller triangles for this area, and I'm working up and down and back and forth. And one more just to finish off where that crease in the top part of the nose above the nostril hole joins in here. That's where I'm going to start. And now for this part I can start getting a little bit thicker, and for this part we can start probably breaking this down into some slightly smaller tries. potentially. Let's just see where we go. So clicking one after another, nice and simple process. And after we get this part done, I'm going to show you the next stage so that you're not kind of just sat there for hours watching me draw triangles, because nobody wants to see that. So forgot to close that shape, new one. And you can see I've got quite a tight gap in there, and that's on purpose so I can catch that groove. So I'm just going to pull up one more, and that will essentially allow us, oops, keep forgetting my fourth point, go to just tweak a few of these points, pull them out. Like so, and then that's pretty much the process. That's how you go all the way around your image. So you can see I've started making that nose shape there. It's quite definable, and we've got the cheekbone line. I don't like how this is kind of curving round and then kicking back on itself for this part, so I'm just going to adjust that point and just pull it up a little bit and push that one down slightly. And that way we're keeping that curved line going. This point could probably be moved up higher. And then we've got that going straight up, following line with the eye. And the cheekbone, as well as keeping in contour with the beard stubble area. So a little bit more, I'll just pull over the nose area, and then we'll move on to stage 2. So continuing from here, I'm just going to drop in and start making these a little bit larger, because I'm going to start filling in, and the more triangles you've got, the longer the colouring process takes. But don't undercut some of the detail. If there's quite a sharp curve in this area, we need to keep a fair amount of that detail there. Don't go overboard, because you'll lose the polygonal look. The smaller your triangles are, the smoother your edges end up being. So bear that in mind as you're working out what it is you're going to be working with, and how detailed or how polygonal you want the image to look. You could go full on really heavy detail, although I wouldn't recommend it for this look. It doesn't look brilliant, doesn't look all that bad, but we're doing this for a specific purpose, and it kind of loses that purpose if you don't keep the detail to a reasonably low level. So as you can see now, I'm starting to pull into the larger shapes, and I'll just get this section of the nose done, and we shall move on to the colouring process. Let's go follow the nose bone upwards. Do a large one there, but I need to pull this point back a little bit more. I'm going to try and keep this highlighted edge of the nose in line here. So reasonably good. Actually, no, let's remove that one. I need a little bit more detail in this area to catch off some of this highlight. So what I'm going to do is just pull up here. And, oops, what am I doing? Like that. There we go, that's better. Now, one of the elements that you kind of need to mind out for is that you're not constantly creating these like spiderweb looks, so alternate your directions of triangles to enable you to get as much detail as you can without creating those spiderweb looking elements, because in your end image they kind of look a little bit strange if your full image is got those all over it. Now there we go, we have nose section done. So to kind of finish off with this section, all you need to do from here, and what I'm going to do now, is just duplicate the layer and have my original. And on the layer copy, we are going to select all of it and we are going to remove the fill. Okay, and then one by one you're going to hover over your select tool and it says V. So from here, once you've selected all of your tries and took off that fill, you've just got your outline. All you need to do, like I said, is hover the select tool and it tells you your shortcut key is V, and hover the eyedropper tool and your shortcut key is I. You just need to flip between those two. So we have the select tool started, select a triangle, press the I key and colour pick as close to the centre of that try as you can, and then select V, next triangle, close to the centre as you can, and the next one as close to the centre as you can, and the next one, and that's pretty much all you have to do for the colour fill. You sometimes have to be a little bit more cautious that you're not getting any obscurities like imperfections in the skin, scars, moles potentially, unless you've of course included moles as part of your design process to implement within the final image. However, they're not generally something most people want accenting. So if you're doing this for somebody, you might want to just double check first that they're okay if you are going to include things like scars and moles and birthmarks, etc. You've got to be careful as well when doing this that you're selecting the right fill from the right triangle. You'll notice when I'm clicking these, it's selecting certain ones rather than the ones I'm thinking it's going to select. So pay close attention to it as you're doing it. We'll just zoom in a little bit more. See, that as well is another issue. Personally, I'm not a big fan when in these three the colours are way too close to each other. So for that, I'm just going to take the fill back off and choose a darker area away from the centre on purpose. And it's the same with these two here. So just remove that fill and let's go something up there. Now those two are too similar. Could be here a while finding this. No, there we go. Let's go off that. Go something more fleshy. And then for that one, pick a darker point. There we go. It's good enough. This one, Now you'll see, you'll get these points here where I'm unable to select this try. It's always highlighting the other edges, the other triangles, so all you have to do is drag select over two of them, hold shift, deselect one you've already filled, and then you can go back to pressing your I key and selecting that try. And that is pretty much the process that you need to stick to all the way through. Like that. So pull out of there, a little bit more, deselect, and now if I hide my image, you see we can clearly start seeing the shape of the nose there, in the fleshy colours running up into the cheekbone. So from our original image, we are starting already to build the face up. So that's pretty much it. You just need to follow that process. The only reason I duplicated this outline layer here was I prefer to work the full image up as a outline tries to start with, and then colour pick towards the end. There's no specific reason, it's just a personal preference. I think possibly when I start seeing this, it gives me a satisfaction level as to the end result and how the end result's going to look, and I prefer to have more of kind of a surprise. So I prefer it all to be in this format, and then zoom in, get all the colour done, and zoom back out, and you've got your finished product in one go. It's very satisfying. This triangulation process takes a while, so you can stop the tutorial here. You've got all the information. The only last element you would really be doing from that is to create a new layer, drop that just behind your polygons layer, double click it and we'll call it BG, and we would generally fill our area like so, and you could do it in flesh tonal values. I like to drop a gradient onto it, so opening the gradient tool, we should pull these colours over and pull that one into the black as well, and that way they are both the same colour. We can just double click one, we can even darken it or brighten it up. I think we'll brighten this up, no, we'll darken it down. Like so, and then the background layer selected, we'll drop that colour in, let's go the other way, something like that, and then when you get your full image sorted, you have a full background element. Now it's recommended when you do the backgrounds to choose tonal values that are inside the image somewhere. The ones I've done on my website, the one on me, this background is based off my eye colour. So if we, let's just open that image in a new tab so we can zoom in. You can see I've picked these colours out of my actual eyes. So that's where that's come from. And additionally with this one, this was used in the tonal values of the skin. So you get those two different end results. Let's open that in a new tab and zoom out me. You see, the eyes are probably a little bit too vibrant in this image. Probably want to tone those down. I took it by myself because the photograph was a little dark. Let's go through the project. You see, not a brilliant photograph to start with. End result looks a lot nicer and a lot cleaner. But I know my brother's eyes are green, and I tried to kind of pull out a green. It's probably a little bit too bright, in all fairness, but there we go. you have all the information we need. I'm going to bin off my background layer. I'm going to bin off my colour fill layer, and from here on I'm just going to continue polygoning this image. So I'm just going to do a time check, 25 seconds, that's where I need to pause. I'm going to speed up the video right up to my end product, and then we'll see where we go. So this next section is probably going to run over about 5 minutes, just so it's not too ridiculous. 3 to 5 minutes we'll say, and good luck to you all. Feel free to post in the description links to your versions and how you've made them, any tweaks you've done. Maybe you do it in quads, maybe you're using end guns. I don't know. So have a play with it, see where you get, and I shall see you soon. Okay guys, so that's all the line work done. I've just duplicated the layer and I'm going to keep a layer with my line art on. Now we're just going to drop into the inking stage. So like I said before, select all, remove the fill, and then we can just zoom in and start colour picking. So once again, I'll speed this up and I'll see you in a moment. Okay, so this is pretty much it, finished product. Personally, not a big fan of how far this shoulder comes out in compared to that one, so I'll probably expand this one out or shorten this one up. And I'll probably end up shortening that one up, to be honest. Something like that works quite well. Bring that in, so it's rounded over. And there we have it. So from here, it's just a case of adding in that background. Let's look up these layers. Get our background fill in. Needs to be visible, of course, otherwise you won't be able to see it. Let's fill that over. Let's move our gradient tool. This might work well with a flesh colour, so let's give it a go. Boom. No, I'm not a big fan. So let's just say if we yeah, that's go, image complete. Quite happy with that. So I went from our original photograph. So, photograph. That's the photograph. Then leave that as comparison up. I outlined the photograph with tries and went through a phase of colour filling all of those tries. We've removed a couple off the shoulder just to shorten it in, and then we've added in our background fill, and that's the job complete. So you could duplicate that fill and on this layer, I don't know, we could go for something in the shape maybe, like that and like that, and throw that one on. That's not a bad image at all actually, it works really well with that. Alternatively we could duplicate the layer once more, and then this time we could colour pick out the eyes area, although these are not actual accurate colours from the eye. I just know Gareth's got blue eyes, so and something like that, and just ramp up that tad, and then throw that onto there, which makes the eyes pop. So I think overall, personally, I actually prefer that second one we did. So there's my finished product. Move that off, pull this in, and then we have it. So have a go yourselves. Show me what you get done. Leave a comment in the comment section, subscribe, all the usual gubbins, and I'll see you next time for another tutorial. Thanks and goodbye.